Hi guys, Elsie Jensen here. Today we are making tomato basil soup and grilled cheese for lunch. It's a snow day at our house, so the kids are out of school and a nice warm soup will be great for them. So I'm going to start by using my Dutch oven, and I'm going to turn my heat onto a medium high, and I'm going to add some olive oil to the base of it. Just enough to kind of do a light covering on the bottom. You don't need too much. And then while that's heating up, I'm going to put a spoonful of fresh minced garlic. And these, while we're chopping up our onions and things, these will start to brown and let out some nice flavor. So we're done with our olive oil and everything. Now I'm going to chop up one onion. This is a yellow onion or a Vidalia onion. These are great for soups and stews. If you are using like a white onion, those are better for like salsas and chutneys. And then red onions are good for like eating on burgers and fresh. They just all have, like, they cook up differently. So again, I cut off my sides and I made a slit, and I'm peeling off the last outer skin, which is not very good. It doesn't cook up well. I'm going to cut it in half, and then I'm going to flip it onto the side like this. And then I'll hold on the outside in this, and then I'm going to just push down. And then I'm going to go across. And into it, this is not a super, just a simple dice. We're going to be blending our soup towards the end, so it's easier to blend them when they're in smaller pieces instead of just quartering your onion. So now that these all have a nice dice on them, I'm going to put them in my pot with my garlic that is warming up with the oil. Here. And I'm going to get a spoon out so I can stir my soup. And remember, since I'm using a Dutch oven, which has an enamel things, I'm using a silicone spoon. You can use wood, but I try to avoid metal in anything that has a coating on it, because it will scratch it and it can ruin your thing. So now that while this is cooking up and heating, I'm going to cut up my tomatoes. I got these from Costco earlier this week. I like to use fresh tomatoes in my tomato basil soup, but you could use canned if you wanted to. I'm simply just going to do cut them into eighths. So I'm going to quarter them and then cut them each in half. Some people like to go through the process of taking off the skin and de-seeding. I never do that. You blend it up, cook it down, it gives you a nice thick texture. But when you make like tomato sauces, a lot of people will boil their tomatoes and then de-seed them and skin them. But in these soups, it doesn't matter so much. So I'm just going to cut in half and a quarter and dice. If your knife is not cutting through the tomato skin well, it's because your knife is not sharp. So if you're trying to cut and it slips and slides, you need to sharpen your knife. That's a little tip that I know whenever my knife I feel like is dull, it's when it's not cutting through the tomato skin well. If you have a knife set from like Wusthof or any knife set, it should come with a honing steel, and you can just sharpen it up that way. I can actually show you guys. I'm going to stir this in there. I'm going to add them in there. But I'll show you guys how to sharpen the knife real quick. This is a honing steel. You do this, and you're just going to simply go like this. You're going to go on this side and slide it down. And then you can do the opposite side. Trying to get across the whole thing. And this should make it, see how it cuts super easy. So a lot of times people don't realize your knives can go dull, especially if you put them in the dishwasher. That has a little more on. And that's why you should sharpen them every so often. My trick is when I try to cut a tomato and it won't cut, it's because of things. And with a dull knife, you're more likely to cut yourself or hurt yourself, because it's easier for your knife to slip and then cut your skin. So just, it might seem counterintuitive to keep them sharp, but keep them sharp will allow you to have less slips and less accidents. So I've got mine. I'm going to stir these up in here while it's cooking. We're just going to keep sauteing them down. Add nice flavor. I just like to add them. You could have waited and sauteed your onions up and then added them in there, but my but on my cutting board fills up fast. So I like to have more area to cut. So I'll just keep adding them in. It won't change the difference. You'll cook them down to the same amount. But this was, I think, 4 pounds of tomatoes, or just shy of 4 pounds of tomatoes. I like to do fresh. You can do canned. If you do canned, make sure you either get a tomato basil can with oregano, or a just plain unseasoned. You don't want to end up doing like a rotel mix where it has like chili peppers in it, because that can make you have a spicy soup. There we go. Make sure you also pick out any of the green stems. You could also use plum tomatoes. These are just what I could get at Costco, but at the grocery stores you can get plum tomatoes. They're typically a lot cheaper. They're smaller, but those work just as well for sauces and soups. Cut these up. And one thing that's nice about this soup, if your tomato is still firm, you'll cook it up fine and it won't affect your flavor. Or if your tomatoes are squishy. You know, when you're eating fresh tomatoes, you want to eat them at a certain point. You don't want them to get mealy, and you don't want them to be too firm. So I almost have these all cut up. I just have a few more, but I'm going to add this batch in. It seems like a lot of tomatoes, but they're full of so much water. This is what we'll use to make the brothy part of our soup. Put there, and now it's all to it pretty much. I guess I didn't need all of mine. And I'm just gonna stir this up as it cooks. And my thing is I wanna kind of saute them out until all the skins have kind of started to, they all like kind of turn to a little bit of a mush. So we'll keep that while that's there. I don't think I'll need the rest of these. I'm gonna clean up a little bit of my area for working. Normally I use fresh basil, but when I went to the store, because of the snowstorm here, everything was sold out. So I have some, this is like a chopped fresh, so it's and then they did have one basil plant, but it's still young, so I'm not gonna steal all the leaves from it, but I'm gonna use some. While this is thing, I'm gonna put some basil in here. I had some leaves that fell off. This is a good alternative if you know you're not going to use a lot of it. It's better than dried. It has a little bit more flavored. You can see how it's greener compared to if you were to get dry basil. And you don't have to chop it up, so that's one thing that's nice. I typically like to use fresh basil, but the snowstorm coming, everything was sold out. You couldn't get milk or eggs or anything yesterday at the store. I'm glad I had already gotten most of my shopping done before. So I'm gonna stir this in so that it can rehydrate in the tomato juices some. And then I have one more of these tubs of basil. If you were going to be using fresh basil, they at the grocery store, they sell the small tubs, they sell the big tubs. I typically use like 1 to 2 big tubs for when I make this soup. If you're growing basil yourself, it's probably you need enough to harvest from like 3 or 4 plants at a time, just to get enough. Because if you overpick your basil plant, then they won't thrive as well. So I have the basil in here. You can see it has a nice coloring to it. You can see the nice pops of green in there. And you can already see how the, put that back in there. See all the juices that are coming out of the tomato? So that will add to the soup. You don't actually need very much chicken broth or anything in here because it's mainly gonna be from the fresh tomatoes, which gives it a more robust flavor. So I'll have those simmering up and cooking. I'm going to add a little bit of garlic salt right now to my tomatoes. I'm gonna pour it out in my hand. I typically, when I'm cooking, I do it by feel or by eye. So this would be about a tablespoon of garlic salt. Garlic salt is not as salty as regular salt. So if you're using this, you can use a little bit more and it will have some nice flavor to it. So I'm putting about a tablespoon of that into the soup. And I'm gonna stir that up and let it simmer. While this is simmering, I'm gonna start prepping for the grilled cheese. So we love to have grilled cheese with our tomato basil soup. So over here I have sourdough bread. I have the cheese I like. I'm a big fan of Tillamook, but you can use any type of cheese. I like their thick cuts. Same with, I think, was it Cracker Barrel? They have nice thick cut cheese. I just think it tastes better and it goes, it melts better, has a better texture. But you can use whatever cheese you like. We love cheddar cheese. I also like to make grilled cheese with like cheddar and Gouda. Those are really good together. This loaf of bread is a sourdough. You typically, when you make grilled cheese, you're gonna wanna do it with a more crusty bread like sourdough. It just cooks up better. Normally, I either make my own sourdough, but my sourdough started molded, so I am in the process of remaking that. And, or I'd buy fresh loaf from the bakery, but with the snowstorm, every fresh loaf of sourdough was out. So what I'm going to do, I'm gonna give this a little stir since it's starting to bubble a little bit. I'm gonna take, and I'm gonna spread one side of each of my slices of bread with some softened butter. I would recommend always keeping a stick of butter out on the counter. It just spreads nicer. You don't need to use as much. It's easier to use. But I'm gonna just spread one side. You don't need a lot of it. And then I'll put it on here for when we're ready. And then I'm gonna spread the other side of another thing. And this way when you saute, or when you cook them on the pan, they'll have a nice golden crisp color to them and add a nice flavor. When I'm cooking a lot of grilled cheese for my family, a lot of times I do them in the oven on the air fryer setting. That way I can do a huge cookie sheet and cook like 15 grilled cheese at a time. But today only a couple of my kiddos wanted to have grilled cheese, so I'm doing just on my skillet here. You could do it also on a regular pan. Skillets like this are nice because it's easier to get under them because you don't have high wall like a regular pan. So I spread it here, and let's see, spread some butter on this side. And as right now the tomato basil soup is simmering. This is a great soup to make on an evening. It's actually really quick to throw together and doesn't require a lot of ingredients. So I have those prepping, and then I'm gonna give it a good stir. Yummy. Does that look yummy, Teddy?
Yeah.
Put a good stir together. And then I'm gonna start, I'm not gonna cook these yet because I'm gonna wait until I'm on the blending stage or close to that for those, but I'll have them prepped. It's a good time to do prep for other things while you're waiting on the soup. I'm gonna put 2 slices of cheese between each one. Again, you can use whatever cheese you like. I never grew up eating American cheese, and so I think it's gross, but if you like American cheese, my husband loves it, go for it. You could use any cheese you have around the house as long as it has a good melting point. Like Parmesan cheese doesn't have a good melting point, so that would not be a great cheese for it. Yeah, you like grilled cheese? Yeah, we're gonna have that in just a second. So I have my 2 slices right there.
You love cheese.
You love cheese? Yes. I love grilled cheese too. It's one of my favorite. And I'm gonna come over here. I'm gonna give it a stir. Do you see how much of the tomato, like the water out of the tomatoes have come out? How much water they've created? There. I'm gonna add to this, now that it's gotten to a point, I'm gonna add some chicken bouillon. You could use, I avoid using chicken broth, otherwise your soup's gonna be too runny. I prefer to use the juices and then just add a big heaping spoonful of chicken bouillon. That will give it a nice flavor as well as help with the adding like the saltiness to it so it's not as bland. But I'm gonna have that stirred in.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that yummy?
Yeah.
So I have 1 big heaping spoonful.
Yeah.
And you see they're getting there. You see how they're starting to separate? I was talking about how you're gonna cook them until the skin is separating. Again, I'm comfortable touching this. My hands don't get burned easily. So this, you can see how the skin is starting to separate from the tomatoes. So that's telling me that it's almost ready for the blending stage. So I'm gonna stir this. I have just a couple more pieces that I wanna get there to blend up nicely. Now the blending, since we're close to the blending stage, I'm gonna turn it down to low. And I'm gonna get my ladle out. Normally I used to do this with a big blender, but my big blender broke. So I've been using my Ninja with the big set, and I've just been doing it in batches. It takes a little bit longer, but it works just as good. So I'm gonna put this out and keep my thing on low. Again, with a Dutch oven, I have it turned on the lowest setting, but because Dutch ovens keep the heat in, it will continue to cook it and simmer that. So if you're ever thinking, it's cooked slightly different than a saucepan. A saucepan you turn off and you lose your heat immediately. Not so much with a Dutch oven. Yeah. So I'm gonna take these and I'm gonna scoop up. I try to get some of the tomato chunks first, and then I'll add some of the juices in second. So I've put it up to here. If you're using a big blender, it has a max fill line, so you just fill it up to that. That's what I'm doing here. If you fill it up above the max fill line, you will get food splatter. It will run out the bottom of your blender because it just needs that space for blending. So I'm gonna twist it on, and bear with me here. It'll be a little bit loud for just a few seconds. Ready? 3, 2, 1. It doesn't take much to blend it. But do you see how you blend it and it actually changes it to a completely different color? So instead of being as bright red as it was, it's actually more orange. So this recipe, when you think about it, you think, oh, they must add a lot of cream to their thing. I add just a teeny bit of cream. Sometimes I don't add any cream at all to my tomato basil soup, but it will still have that rich velvety texture because the pureeing it causes it, it just makes it more creamy and smooth. So it's actually, this one I always consider it's a very healthy soup that we eat. It's low in calories because tomatoes are very low in calories. It doesn't have much olive oil in it, and basil essentially has no calories in it. And then I just add a splash of cream in it, barely any, like maybe 1 or 2 tablespoons. So I'm gonna blend this one up. Yeah, it is loud. And then, the heat sometimes causes it to stick. There we go. You can hear when I open it, it goes shh. You could also wait until your soup was cooled completely to do it if you're not uncomfortable doing the hot. Again, I've done this so many times that I'm used to it, but you could have done this, let the pot sit for a while, then blend it, and then reheat it and add the cream in last. But I'm gonna do this. I try to just take the tomato chunks and leave some of the broth in there, so I'm not blending as much. I also like to have towards the end, I like to have a couple tomato chunks in there just for some added texture to the soup.
Yeah.
Yes, but again, you could also do this in a food processor if you wanted to. I just do it in this because I think cleaning a food processor is a pain. It's hard to actually clean. And I'm also making enough of this soup to feed my family of 7.
Yeah.
So if you're doing, you know, just a family of 4, you could just use 2 pounds of tomatoes. Yeah, we have a big family, don't we?
Yeah.
Yes. So, and I'm gonna fish out a couple more tomatoes in here.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you like ketchup, don't you? Ketchup, and you like spaghetti?
Yeah.
Those are all tomatoes. You just don't like fresh tomatoes, bud. Who likes fresh tomatoes in our family?
Lena.
Not Lena. Evie. Evie loves fresh tomatoes. When Evie was little, and I used to garden outside a lot, and I would plant a lot of tomato plants, and she would come out and help me harvest all of our tomatoes. And our cherry tomatoes, most of them like didn't survive her picking them because she would pick them and eat them, and we'd have hardly any left by the time we came inside with the rest of our cucumbers and peppers and the big tomatoes. Yeah, big tomatoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There. And put the lid on. blend this one, and then we should have a fairly... Oh, this one got a little messy. I'm gonna grab a paper towel and put around it so that Yeah, we didn't use up all those tomatoes, did we? Our pot got filled up pretty quickly. I'm gonna blend this too. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Now we're getting kind of close to where the soup is almost done. As I'm finishing up with the soup, I'm gonna turn on my griddle over here to a to a medium-high heat. And then as it cooks this side, I'll flip it over and I'll turn it down a little bit because the second one gets a lot hotter. So I have my griddle going so my grilled cheese can start cooking. You don't want to cook it on too high of temperatures because then your grilled cheese won't be cooked in the middle. It will just be toasted on the outside but not necessarily cooked in the middle. And now I'm going to do for my last little bit, because they're hard to get out, I have a slotted spoon that will help me get the rest of the big chunks out to blend. So right here. So see how it will let the broth kind of come down and give me some of the bigger chunks of onions and tomatoes that I missed the first time around. If you don't have a slotted spoon, invest in one. I use it for my pretzels. I use it for taking things out of the water or boiling water, or for making my soup so I can get it nice and creamy. So it's actually a great kitchen tool to use. It's also nice if you want to take things, if you're frying something and you want to take it out, and to use a slotted spoon or a slotted spatula so you're not bringing all the grease with you. You could also use tongs with that. But now we're getting it almost out. Yeah, is this yummy?
My favorite.
Yeah.
My favorite.
My little boy over here, you love to help me cook, don't you?
Yeah.
We call him, his nickname is Chef Teddy. He also has a play kitchen and he likes to cook in his play kitchen as well. But he's my little helper. He likes to help me all the time.
Yeah, too.
Yeah, you like to help?
Yeah, too.
It is. Okay, I think we're almost got most of it out. Most of the big chunks out. What we're kind of fishing for is some of the skins that may have separated. You know, you can also, if you can put it in, if you have a big blender, you could just put the whole thing in the big blender. I do it in batches, because our big blender broke and I just haven't had the time to go out and figure out which one I want.
Help me.
Yeah, you want to help me in just a second. Let me get the hot part up and then you can help me stir. Or you could go get your little kitchen tower and help me.
Yay.
Yeah, you can go get your kitchen tower and bring it over here. Okay, now this is about the last of it. So I'm going to put this down, wipe my edges since I spilled a little, and I'll blend up my last bit. And then I'll turn my soup back up onto a simmer. One last one. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. And I'll pour this in. Okay, you coming to help me? And since I'm done blending and I'm done with my slotted spoon, I'm going to put these over here on my sink. Okay, careful, bud. You got it?
Yeah.
He's going to come up and help me. Okay, what you can do, buddy, you can stir this. Will you stir this for me?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's pretty used to help me. I'm pretty comfortable with him in the kitchen because we've cooked a lot and he understands that he can't touch the pot. He understands that things are hot up here. Kids, it's a great way if you cook with them in the kitchen. It teaches them real life skills. It also helps build their educational concepts. It's actually, cooking is a form of inorganic chemistry.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, you like to cook? Okay, I'm gonna try a little bites, see if I need to add anything to it. Oh, perfect.
Hot.
Yep, it's hot. So we're gonna let this simmer on low, and I'm gonna check out my, you gonna keep stirring that for me, Teddy Bear?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna check out my grilled cheese over here, see how they're going.
Let's see.
It's still warming up, so the butter you can see has melted, but they're not quite ready.
Let's see.
Yes. The grilled cheese, I cook them lower so that the heat can come through and cook the cheese. If you cook them on high temperature, what you'll end up doing is burning the outside, and then you'll have unmelted cheese in the middle. If you have made the mistake of crisping them up too fast, you can pop them in the microwave for like 15 seconds and that will melt the inside of the cheese without making it go soggy. So you could do that. Also, if you're gonna make a big batch of grilled cheese, I do them in the oven. I have an air fryer setting, but you could also do it on like 400. And I just pop them in there and I flip them halfway through. It's like 2 minutes, flip, 2 minutes, and they're done. Which is typically when I'm making them for dinner with our food, I'll do that. But today not everybody wanted grilled cheese, so I'm only doing 3, which will actually be for 4 people, because as you can see, they're fairly large grilled cheeses. Let's see, let's look at our soup over here. Now with that, Teddy, do you want to help me pour in?
Yeah.
I always wait till the very end to add our cream, because if you add it too soon, it can curdle, especially with the acidity of the tomatoes. I do it at the end. Also, heat can cause it to curdle as well. So I typically like to do it towards the end. Are you ready, buddy?
Yeah.
And you don't need much, just a little bit. So help me. Little. So that's probably about 2, maybe 3 tablespoons max, but that's gonna be for several people. And you wanna stir it up. We can stir it in there. Good job. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Now our soup, easy peasy lemon squeezy from fresh ingredients to this, is completely finished. Now we can finish up on our grilled cheese over here. Yeah, grilled cheese. I'm gonna just slide you a little bit over here. Chugga, 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 choo, choo. Okay, let's see where we're getting there. Oh, perfect. Look at that nice crisp here on it. This one needs a little bit more. Let's see about this one. This one needs a little bit more. Sometimes my pan is bigger than my burners. I have an electric stove. We bought our house, it didn't have gas, and it cost an arm and a leg to add gas. So, yes, thank you for the hug. So when we did a remodel, I thought about it, but it was like $6,000 to upgrade and not including a new stove. So I was like, we're gonna do electric. So, but if you do gas, it heats the full pan because the flames come up and around it faster, so it might cook a little bit faster on a gas oven than on an electric. But I do find electrics cook a little bit more evenly.
Delicious.
Yes. Oh, this one's nice to flip over. But you see how it's a nice crispness right here. Sometimes I'm gonna cook this one on this side a little bit more, but sometimes I'll flip them over and cook them a little bit more on each side just to help with the cheese to melt. Thank you for your hugs.
Dave from Louisiana said, hey, we were just there.
Oh yes, we were. We actually just got back from a cruise from Louisiana last week. We went out, we actually drove up on the 27th. It was a terrible car ride, or drove down. It was a terrible car ride there because it was supposed to be 7 hours and it turned into 10. And a 10-hour car ride with 7 people, 5 kids, 2 of them under 3 is not what I consider the most fun. But we were there, and then we sailed out on the 29th. And we went to Costa Maya. That one's nice and crisp. We went to Costa Maya and Harvest Caye, Belize, and Roatan, Honduras, and Cozumel, Mexico, before coming back on the 5th. So I'm gonna turn, I can see this is getting warm, so I'm gonna turn my burner down because I want the cheese to start melting, but without it cooking too much. I also like to shift over to where there are hot spots and not. So this side is cooking faster than this side.
Yeah.
Yes. Are you excited? Are you ready for a grilled cheese and tomato soup?
Evie.
Oh yes. Did you see Evie get back from playing outside?
Take a bow.
Good job. These are cooking up nicely.
Good night.
Look, they're starting to melt. See how they're starting to melt?
Evie.
We still have a little bit, but it's starting to get a good melting on it. While these are cooking, I'm gonna grab a plate and a bowl. Yeah, we're gonna bowl. Should we?
I'm gonna eat.
Okay, you're gonna go back out?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
Okay, we're gonna add, I'm gonna ladle up some of our soup into our bowl. It's easier, I find. I always tell my kids, don't try to ladle across. Bring the bowl to the pot. You'd be surprised how many times they spill it everywhere. So we have that.
Yeah.
Are you excited? And then let's go see over here. Bring it over here. Let's check out our grilled cheese. See how they're cooking. See if I need to flip them over a little bit. I'll do a nice little flip here. Do a little one right here. This one looks like it is pretty much ready to go. So while these are cooking, I'm gonna put this, whoa! Did I drop it? Was that so silly?
Yes.
So I have our grilled cheese and our tomato basil soup right here. We'll cut it open so you guys can see the melt. And I'll get a spoon to try the soup. So here we've got our grilled cheese. And it has a nice, good melt to it. Oh, look at that. And what I love to do with my grilled cheese is that's right, I love to dip it in the soup. Is that so yummy? But easy, delicious. It's always a family favorite. It is hot. You want to blow on it for me? Okay. Well, thank you guys for joining. If you liked what you saw, like and subscribe.